Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Grumpy Pony Podcast. So, in this edition of the Grumpy Pony Podcast, I was very fortunate to be joined by Michael from Oathsworn Games, Oathsworn Miniatures, should I say, and they make a range of miniatures that are anthropomorphized animals. So, you have sort of rabbits that look like knights, you've got monks that there's actually a mouse, loads of things like that. Really cool looking minis. And they also create a game around those miniatures called Burrows and Badgers. Now, if you haven't seen that, it's like a skirmish level game. Again, really cool. They've got a nice rule book that's been printed by Osprey, and well worth a look. If you haven't checked it out, you're looking for something different to do, I would highly recommend them. Say, sitting down with Michael was an absolute pleasure. We talked about how it is sort of running a business like his at the moment during all the craziness going on, his plans for the future, and all the cool things like that. So I really enjoyed making this one. It was great to sit down with him, like I say. So I really hope you guys enjoy it too. So sit back, and without further ado, let's just get into it. Michael, thanks so much for joining me. Basically, I've been a big fan of you. I discovered you properly during the first lockdown, when I was introduced to Burrows and Badgers. So I just sort of got lost on your website, just going through all the different sort of, the moles, the badgers. I ended up building a Mouse Town warband. So it's just those mice characters. So I've got the town watch guys and bits like that. And I just fell in love with them. So to be able to chat to you now, I thought it's really good for me anyway, because I just really love the stuff that you make. But yeah, you guys started in 2013, is that right?
I'd been sort of in the industry as a kind of freelance sculptor for a lot longer than that, but we sort of set up on our own about then. So it was just a chance to kind of do something for ourselves rather than just doing what other people wanted me to sculpt, basically.
Yeah. And was that straight into, did you already have the idea for Burrows and Badgers in your mind then? Or was that something that sort of developed once you'd been doing your own thing for a while?
Really what I wanted to do first of all was dwarves, because I've always had dwarf armies for Warhammer Fantasy Battle and things like that. And
After my own heart.
Yeah, I always played dwarves in D&D and stuff like that. So I started out with doing dwarves, and the plan was to get loads and loads of dwarves done. That was basically the idea. It was just that we'd done a couple of Kickstarters, and somebody on one of the forums we're on, it just said, look, it'd be really good if you did some anthro stuff. I think it would really suit your style. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll try a couple, see if I can do them, see if they look all right. And it just kind of exploded from there, really.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's great. I mean, when I first started looking at them, I was going through them, the ones that you've got, and there must be some sort of method you've got for sort of creating these, because each animal has a sort of a character that you haven't done the thing which I think could be quite easy to fall into the trap of, which is, this is a fox, so I'm going to make them look sneaky, or and fall into these sort of the animal stereotypes almost.
Yeah, you do get that. I think with books and things, you often get sort of certain particular animals are viewed as the bad guys, and you often get like mice are the heroes or whatever. But I figured it's in the real world.
Yeah,
there's a mix of good and bad, or everyone's got their own viewpoint as whether they're the heroes or the villains, and I figured it'd be just the same in that. So
I love it. And the actual so just moving on from that, with Burrows and Badgers, that was another Kickstarter in sort of 2015, wasn't it? So
yeah, we did a Kickstarter for the first sort of 20 models. Obviously that went pretty well, but we had a lot of people saying, what do we do with them? Because with the dwarves and things, it's pretty straightforward. You can use them in your fantasy games, but with these sort of things, a lot of people were, we need something to do sort of a game to play, something like that. So I thought, right, well, I'll have a crack at trying to write something. So I did kind of a little PDF set of rules for them there and then, which kind of just started it off. After that, I sat down and wrote a proper version, because the initial PDF didn't really work that well. So we kind of wrote, and we did our own little rule book, little A5 rule book that we had going for about a year. and we were selling that around the various shows and what have you. And we were at the UK Games Expo, and Phil Smith, who was the head of Osprey Games, I think he still is actually. He came by the stand and bought a copy of the rule book. And he came back the next day and said, "Look, if if we wanted to get a hardback version done, they'd be happy to do that." So it kind of went from there.
Brilliant. Yeah. So because I mean, for me, I'm a sucker for rule books that have just loads of artwork in them. And going through Burrows and Badgers one, there's some really nice sort of sketched out artwork as well. Was that all done by yourselves, or was that?
No, in the Osprey book, it was Gary Chalk. They got Gary Chalk to do the art for that. So yeah, it's a mixed bag of, some people really love it, some people don't. I think that's fairly standard with Gary Chalk stuff, to be honest. People either love him or hate him.
I think it totally suits the sort of look of the Burrows and Badgers. For me, anyway, I thought it just all seemed to fit lovely. Yeah. Really nicely.
Yeah, I mean, for me, they're a bit cutesy, I've got to be honest.
Yeah.
It doesn't really go with the artist brief, but you take what. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we weren't paying for it, so can't complain too much.
Yeah, it's so strange. It's this thing, isn't it, with this hobby, and when you're dealing with sort of artists and creators, it's such a subjective thing sometimes, isn't it? Because the amount of time I look at stuff and I go, I mean, with this podcast, people always say to me, like, I get people on. I generally love what they do. I'm really impressed with what they do. That's why I want to get people on. And you get some people on, and they'll say to you, like, "Oh, why do you like that? Why do you like everything?" I was like, "Well, because it's amazing that people have been able to create that." And I look at the stuff that you've done, and I think, like, how have you done that? Because I mean, I've got a very limited skill with green stuff, like to the point where, like, I don't use it that much at all. So the idea of being able to sculpt anything out of anything, is close to wizardry for me. So I mean, I don't know how long it took you to learn that.
I mean, to be fair, I was rubbish when I started off. It is like anything you do; it's just practice.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing it since, probably professionally, since about 2001. I think I started. Obviously, been doing conversions and things before that, just putting cloaks on things, and just converting miniatures as you do. But I mean, you literally, the more you do, the better you get. It is as simple as that. You kind of the coordination, hand-to-eye coordination, and working out how much pressure to put on things to make the right marks. It is just a matter of practice. So I just, let's say, started out doing freelance stuff for people, all kinds of different scales. I did a lot of 6mm stuff, which was challenging.
I bet, yeah.
Good fun though. But I mean, and once you've done stuff at 6mm, you can pretty much work at any scale then, because getting detail at 6mm lets you get detail at 28mm quite easily. So
so the learning curve becomes a bit easier from there.
Yeah. 28mm figure feels enormous when you step off from doing a 6mm one.
Oh, that's awesome though. It's awesome to hear. And I'm just thinking about this now. Was that something you went into? Did you do classes originally to sort of get into that, or?
No. I mean, it's not this. For sculpting, there's not really anything available. I know now people are doing it digitally. A lot. You can quite often get information online about that. More for kind of character design for video games than sculpting for actually producing miniatures. But at least you can get that. But for the putty stuff, it's really just figuring out as you go along. There's no. I mean, when I started out, we didn't have any information at all. You were literally just making it up as you go along. So, initially, I hadn't even figured out armatures and things like that. So I hadn't even realised you had to put a bit of wire inside. And it was literally trial and error, figuring it out as you went along.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, it's the same with painting. It's like you do your first paint job. Generally, your first paint job is not very good.
Yeah.
You quickly pick up techniques and get better at it.
Yes, it's true. I mean, I always make the joke when I was allowed to, and I used to do tutorials and stuff in the shop, that when my first miniature that I ever painted, it looked like I threw the paint at it. It's just one of those things. You just get better at it as you do it more. That's really cool. So when you decided, like, I was going to take this to like a Kickstarter, did you find that a particularly easy process, or were you sort of sort of worried about how things are going to be received on Kickstarter? Or
initially, it was a tough choice. Before we sort of started this lot, I did a very short-lived set of sci-fi figures, some robots and troopers and stuff that I just thought, well, I'll just release normally. Had some decent feedback from them, from people online saying they wanted to buy them and what have you. But after about 3 or 4 months of them being released, we hadn't even kind of made back the cost of the molds on them.
right.
So I thought, well, for the next thing we do, we'll try Kickstarter and just see what it's like. And to be honest, now I suspect pretty much any small manufacturer launching stuff will launch it through Kickstarter, because it's just so much more effective than a regular launch.
Yeah.
Like, easily 10 times. I mean, it's a massive game changer in terms of getting exposure and literally getting people to actually part with the cash, rather than just saying, "Oh yeah, we like those. I'll buy them somewhen."
Yeah.
And then you wait 2 years and they don't. You know?
Yeah, it does seem like Kickstarter has become a great leveler in that respect for the
Yeah.
manufacturers and things. Yeah, I always say that my only sort of concern with it is that, from my experience as a retailer, there doesn't seem to be that many incentives as a retailer to sort of go into it. But
Oh no.
I can totally see why a manufacturer would use them.
Yeah.
Just no brainer.
I mean, I'm pretty sure most of us manufacturers, obviously can't speak for them all, but the ones I've spoken to would rather it wasn't a thing at all, and we could just release things normally.
Yeah.
It's just literally the way it's become, is that
Yeah.
if you don't release it through Kickstarter, you kind of, I mean, we've shown pictures of stuff that's on sale straight away, and you get people sending you emails saying, "Yeah, but when's the Kickstarter?" And we say, "Well, no, you can buy it now. You know,
Yeah.
it's on the website. You can just buy it." And they're like, "No, yeah, but when's the Kickstarter?" And it's like, okay, fair enough.
That's strange, isn't it? It's really strange. Yeah, I mean, it's just the way. I think that's the way the world, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, did you find, because from what I'd seen, because I periodically go back to your website and check what you've got coming out and things like that, and I've seen like your website's changed a bit just over the time since lockdown. So for you, what was your experience during lockdown? Was that a huge game changer for you, or was it just sort of business as usual?
Kind of at the basic level, business as usual, because there's only me and Joe here, so we're just coming in. We've not had to, there's been no social distancing or shutdown or anything like that, and reasonably well, because most of what we do is mail order. The big problem's been shows. We normally do a lot of trade shows, and you pick up a lot of new customers at trade shows. But there's a lot of people who just see you for the first time, and then they go off and they talk about it and they show the pictures they've taken, and you build up a lot of business ongoing over the year because of the trade shows. So with those being out of the window, that's kind of slowed things down.
Yeah.
And in terms of releases as well, I mean, I've got roughly 30 models that I'm waiting to get out, and they've been ready since about March last year, and we've just had so much trouble getting kind of molds made, getting master molding done, and everything's just been slowed right down. So that's been a pain.
Yeah, I bet it just seems to just be affecting everyone. I don't think anyone's got away sort of scot-free, have they, from this situation, which is a real shame. But yeah.
I think the Brexit thing didn't help either. We've had a few like the people we were getting our alloy off moved to Europe and stopped selling to the UK.
Oh, okay, right.
And like same with our base supplier, things like that. So you're kind of having to find new people to work with, basically. So it's been a bit of a 2020 was not a fun year, it has to be said.
No.
Fingers crossed for 2021, but it's not looking great so far.
No, we haven't hit the ground running, have we?
No.
2021. But do you know what? That's one of the reasons why I started this podcast, was to sort of get our name out as the shop, but also just give me a chance to chat to people like yourselves, and just sort of, because I don't know if it's the same for you, but when you are a really small operation, you do sort of end up, well, I did for a little while, just thinking, oh my God, am I the only one that is really struggling with just getting things done as normal? Just really like hurdle after hurdle, it seems like.
Yeah. No, it definitely get you like that. I mean, we're in a couple of kind of manufacturers groups on Facebook and that, so it's quite useful that you can see everyone else is also panicking.
Yeah.
Always nice to know that you're not the only one.
Yeah.
But,
So
Go on,
No,
sorry, go on.
No, go on.
I was just saying, especially with things like trade shows, in that you have to plan ahead. Everyone's planning ahead for new releases and booking hotels and stuff like that. And we're all busy asking each other, look, have you booked a hotel yet? Is it worth it? Do you think are they going to, like with Salute? We had Salute until last week. Salute was still supposed to be going ahead in April.
Yeah.
And now they've pushed it to November the 13th, I think it is.
Yeah.
Again, fingers crossed it happens, but it's the same thing. You kind of, your plans are all up in the air. You're not getting any straight information, so you can't really. I mean, you'll find it the same with the shop. You'll have people, you'll be wanting to put on events or get people down for gaming or whatever, and you don't know what to tell people, do you? So it's
well, at the moment it's just a case of the shop's closed. We just have to do everything online. So
and you got literally no idea when that'll alter.
No, that's it. But you have to. We have to try and just get us. That's what I thought. You just have to try and get yourself out there the best you can, and just get. I mean, the positives out of this whole thing have been that I've had an opportunity now to meet people like you, like other people. I've got now contacts all across the industry that I didn't have before. So you take the wins where you can get them, don't you? Sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
I was going to mention, because you did mention just briefly that you obviously make all your stuff. It's metal miniatures. Is that something you're looking to sort of stay with, or is it always going to be metal miniatures for you, do you think?
I mean, given the alternate one, we've got the biggest stuff's in resin. We've got mostly metal and resin. I mean, plastics would be lovely. I just don't ever see it happening because of the cost, to be honest. I mean, you're looking at a kind of tooling set for something like the Perrys do. We get a box of Perrys miniatures, generally between 18 and 30,000 pounds to get the steel tool made for that.
Wow.
So given we've got kind of 40 odd different races in the Burrows Badgers, I think to get plastic sets for each of them, we'd be looking at a couple of £1 million, and that's not really.
It's not, no, not at all. But then saying that, when you're looking at the quality of what you're producing anyway, I would say that's a huge investment for something. Is it going to improve things that much?
Yeah, I mean that is the issue. I guess the advantage you get is that you can do kind of multi-part stuff if people want to, But again, I find that I'm not that thrilled with that, because I like to make each one individual as a character if I can.
Yeah.
Just because I enjoy that side of things.
Yeah.
About what they're like and.
Yeah, well, so like I say, the stuff that I got, I was the guy that I got recently was I want to say it's the Marmot.
Oh yeah.
The big guy.
He's a chunky fellow with a.
Now, like, I looked at it, and I'm the sort of player, the gamer who likes the sort of narrative element of any game. Really, I wouldn't say anywhere near a competitive player in any sort of description, but and so. I like to sort of put my own little, as a gamer, painter, or whatever, or hobbyist. I like to put my own little spin on it, and you're able to do that enough with what paint you put on it and what base you put on it, and I think it sort of speaks for itself. I really like it, and I've been talking to other people on other podcasts about the whole multi-part single pose miniatures, and I think there is an argument to say actually how you paint them as well can put as much of the sort of the uniqueness to them than, say, sticking a new head on, or or doing a different arm. Obviously it's not customizing to that level, but you're still putting your own spin on it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, the ones we've got here, I mean, I'll paint one and then Joel paint the same figure, and they look totally different. Because it's just totally different paint schemes, what have you, and
that's it. And different people go, oh, do you know what? Because I did the mouse guys in blue and red, but I've seen them in like tartan. I've seen them in some great paint shops, a hell of a lot better painters than what I can do. But and they will look completely different on the tabletop. And the war bands look different because you've got such a selection there.
It's one of the things we've tried. I figured if I can't do multi-part stuff, I'll have to just try and do loads and loads of different ones here. At least people have got plenty to choose from. I mean, technically, you only need sort of half a dozen, but
that's it. But and I think you like you say, you only need like half a dozen, but either you end up picking up another half a dozen anyway.
Oh yeah, yeah. We've got a lot of people who've just bought them all.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, they don't know how they're going to get to use them all, but they must just play a lot.
Yeah, of course.
You've got
Why not?
25 warbands, and you know.
Yeah. I mean, if they're anything like me, they'll be building a whole mouse village at some point. It's easily done. Yeah, it's one of those things. I really enjoyed it, and then I just think, how was the actual idea created? Of Burrows and Badgers, though, was it just sort of just that evolution from I wanted to create something to fit these miniatures?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'd already started working on some rules for another project, which I still haven't done anything with because Burrows and Badgers got in the way. And so I used the framework of those and just kind of converted it over for Burrows and Badgers. I mean, it was quite a bit different because it was a 2d6 based system rather than using
Right.
the polyhedral dice.
Yeah.
But I thought the polyhedral dice worked better with the different sizes of miniature because when you've got to try and match a mouse against something that's 10 times its size or whatever,
Yeah.
I thought the different levels of dice would help with that. But yeah, I just sat down and wrote the thing really, and then we didn't do a playtest group for the first one. I just kind of did it myself, and then but when we got to kind of rejig it for the Osprey version, because we couldn't leave it exactly the same because it had to have its own ISBN number, so I had to make changes to it
Right.
before they publish it, which was fine because it let us fix various bits that I wasn't too happy with. And so when we did that, we just set up a playtesting group on Facebook and just got feedback from the players there. But it's just it's like I think everyone who does gaming, you always mess around with rules a bit, and you're always tinkering with things and house rules and what have you. So it's kind of just an extension of that, really.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So, do you have like a sort of a favorite genre at all? Like, is it fantasy for you all the time, or?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, fantasy and sci-fi. I've done the odd bit. I do historical, but tends to be kind of older historical stuff.
Yeah,
kind of early medieval and earlier. Never been a massive fan of kind of more modern stuff.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, normally fantasy and sci-fi, but with a bit of knights in armor thrown in.
yeah. Can't go wrong with that, can you?
Yeah.
Because you could always. I mean, there's so much scope with that sort of time frame. If you are going historical, that you can go, oh yeah, it's historical, but there's dragons here, or
yeah,
you mix things up as much as you like. But yeah, so going forward, have you got any plans to sort of expand on Burrows and Badgers, or are you looking to sort of create another sort of game around it, or what's the plan?
Well, we've got for Burrows and Badgers, we've got I've got a couple more supplements coming out later this year. Fingers crossed, provided I finish them. Because with the next Kickstarter, the models are being molded now. They're going to be like introducing necromantic warbands, undead, and stuff like that, and witch hunters to go after them. So I've got a set of rules for them. They're going to be in a kind of campaign book, and also I'm on with another sort of supplement, which is a map-based campaign. Just to let people kind of set up a map and then try and take territories and what have you. So those are the two I'm working on at the minute, which should be out at some point this year. And we're also working on a sports game, furball set, which is kind of shinty. Shinty. It's kind of like more violent hockey, I guess.
Oh, amazing!
So we're playing around with that at the minute to see if we can do something with that.
That's brilliant.
Because
I know I've seen recently that there's been a push for sort of solo rules as well. So, because with the lockdowns and things, people are putting in these solo rules. Is that something you would be?
Yeah, I mean, I've got one on kind of a test version of a solo game underway at the minute. I put the rules up in the Burrows and Badgers Facebook group.
Okay.
To see, I've done a solo mod for Burrows and Badgers just so people can try that solo.
Yeah.
It's not ideal because you're much better off designing from the ground up, I think, if you want a solo game.
Yeah.
So I've done some core rules for a solo game, which I mean, I've tried it a couple of times. I think it works well enough. Just again, I'll have to set up a playtesting group and see if we can get a few people behind it. At the minute, my drawback is that I don't want to kind of dilute my attention too much away from Burrows and Badgers because I've got lists of stuff to do for that. But equally, I would like to have it's a solo cooperative game basically. So you can still have more players, but you're against the game rather than.
Yeah, because it gives people an opportunity to drop in, drop out.
Yeah.
So, no, I think. Yeah, so the only reason I asked, I've seen those do really well, especially over the last year.
Yeah, I mean, bound to, aren't they? I mean, I think that's going to be an increasing thing as time goes on.
But, well, I mean, that was awesome. I mean, it's literally all I wanted to ask. We've rattled through it really quickly, but that's really all I wanted to go through with you. Like, sounds like you got some really good things. I'm going to make sure I keep an eye on your Facebook page as well, so I can keep track of what you guys are up to. And like I say, if you were ever in the sort of Sevenoaks area, and we're all allowed to sort of be open again, you're more than welcome down at the Grumpy Pony as well.
Yeah, brilliant. I know. I'll definitely check it out if we're ever down there.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much. So that's it from me, and thanks to everyone for listening.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks everyone for taking the time to listen to the latest edition of our podcast. It's absolute great support. Every single download that you give is great for the shop, and it's great for our little community in the middle of Sevenoaks. So keep subscribing, keep listening. We've got some more guests coming up every single Friday. So I really hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one.